Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is James Osborne. I'm a professor at now Isaac Institute for the Study of Ancient Cultures at the University of Chicago. I'm a Canadian-born, Canadian-raised archaeologist of the Anatolian Bronze and Iron Age. So I'm also not a specialist in this stuff at all, like Morag mentioned about herself. But I got interested in ancient monuments and monumentality kind of around the same time as Black Lives Matter and all that kind of stuff. In my own research interest, coincidentally, was becoming a hot button topic in American discourse. And so I've written a little bit about contemporary American monuments. Although this one, I have to say, I know very little about. But the first thing I just wanted to comment is that archaeologist Monica Smith, who's at UCLA, wrote a really great paper on monumental open spaces and how their meanings change almost day by day, minute by minute, depending on the social context and what's happening in them. And Grant Park that we just walked through, when I think of Grant Park, I think of the 1968 Democratic National Convention and what the protests that took place there, what some people call police riots that took place there. We stopped right in front of that Logan statue. And if you Google 1968 Democratic National Convention, you'll find photographs of protesters on the slopes of that statue being beaten by police. Pretty wild that we were just walking right past that in a perfectly calm and tranquil day. Anyway, what you do not see here is a former statue of Christopher Columbus, the Italian-born explorer and navigator. It was erected in 1933 with Chicago's second famous World's Fair. The famous one is, of course, the 1893, but in 1933, they had a Century of Progress, I think it was called, to celebrate the centennial of the incorporation of Chicago. And in association with that event, this statue was unveiled. I learned this morning that a speech by Mussolini was read at the unveiling of the statue. He wasn't present himself, but nevertheless, he got to give a speech here in front of 25,000 spectators, believe it or not, spread out in this direction. And yeah, I've learned a lot about it since 2020. I've lived in Chicago since 2015. And this road here is called Columbus Drive, I think, or Columbus Street. I don't know. Anyway, Columbus. And if you live in Southside where I do, in the University of Chicago campus, you drive up Lakeshore and then you come up Columbus if you want to go into downtown. So I've driven past this thing countless times. And I did not know that this statue existed until people were mad at it in 2020 when they wanted to take it down in part of this social uprisings that were taking place associated with George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. And so I think in June of 2020, protesters came here and tried to topple it unsuccessfully. A month later, in July of 2020, Lori Lightfoot had it taken down. I think the June event was another semi-violent occurrence. Actually, I think blood was spilled. And so a month later, it was taken down. And what's here is just the plinth, the statue. If you look up location of the statue, where is it now? It just says in storage. I don't know what that means. I have no idea where it is in Chicago. It's still a contested site, I have to say, although Christopher Columbus statues are being taken down all over the place. And I just learned today from Joy McCorrison that even the city of Columbus is debating whether or not to change its name. There are communities that still resent the fact that the statue is not here, especially Italian Americans. There's I think it's called the Joint Civic Italian American Society that exists in Chicago that still celebrates Columbus Day in October every year, including this past October, just last month, and that is still advocating for the statue being put back. I think they've even sued the city. And so the current mayor is still sort of testing the waters to make a final decision on how it's going to end up as its final resting place.